Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, today we're going to talk about Columbus, Ohio, Jeffrey Epstein, and Les Wexner, and why there is a code of silence in the city when it comes to the two men. Now, this sticks with our theme of talking about Ohio and Ohio State yesterday. And I wanted to continue on that path a little bit and add a little bit of context to the story. And this article does just that. This is an article that talks about how Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein's relationship is something that the people in Columbus don't talk about. The people in Columbus are very, very protective of Les Wexner, considering Columbus is basically his own fiefdom. But that needs to be broken. That veil of secrecy needs to be shattered. And the people of Columbus, the people in positions of power and people of influence in Columbus need to rally around the survivors, and they need to shun Les Wexner. I don't care how much money he's pumped into Columbus. I don't care how much money he's pumped into the Ohio State University. None of that matters. Okay? What matters is his complicity with Jeffrey Epstein. What matters is what happened to Maria Farmer on his ranch. All right? That's what matters. Not that people want to protect this guy because he's their cash cow, or because he pumps a lot of money into the city, or because he is some sort of, such a generous man that there's no way he could be involved in any of this. That's all BS. The people of Columbus need to come together, and they need to understand the sort of snake that they have in their midst. And he needs to be shunned, not only on a national level, but on a local level as well. So, this article is from Bloomberg, and it was published on August 9th, 2019, and the author is Anders Mellon. Headline: Don't mention Epstein in Les Wexner's Ohio stomping grounds. Well, that's nice. Just from the headline, it makes you say to yourself, oh, great, can't even bring the guy's name up, huh? That's how powerful he is in Columbus? I can only imagine going into Columbus as an investigative journalist and trying to crack this code. It'd be like one of the TV shows, you're driving around and you're picked up by some yokel sheriff, get thrown into some jail cell for asking questions. Is that the kind of country we live in? I'm sure that's how Columbus feels about Jeffrey Epstein, about Les Wexner. And if he's that powerful there, the local yokel police department isn't going to shake his trees. Not far from the Horseshoe, home stadium of the Ohio State Buckeyes, the name looms in bold white letters. Wexner. That's nice. That's just fantastic, huh? It's something that the people of Ohio State and all of the people who have graduated from Ohio State, the current class there, it's just something you could all really be proud of, huh? Leslie Wexner's name plastered all over your campus. Boy, take heart. That would be Leslie Wexner, the billionaire behind L Brands Incorporated, and a man who towers quietly over all of Columbus. His name adorns the colossal brick and glass medical center at Ohio State University, his alma mater. His foundation generously endows Jewish community leaders. His money has flowed to the arts, military veterans, and more. See, so that's all the stuff that we talk about, right? All of that's cover. It's not because he's a good man or he's somebody who wants to do good. It's so that he has this persona and this aura that's unpenetrable when the shit comes down. Because he knew he was rolling with a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. He knew what Jeffrey Epstein was. You're telling me all those years they spent together, Epstein having the keys to Wexner's kingdom, and Wexner didn't know what sort of snake was within his garden? Come on. That is just absolute BS, okay? A guy like Wexner has no idea who Epstein is. But yet, what Wexner and his wife do is, A, they basically run Columbus, but B, they use all of these charitable givings as a shield. So when the house of cards starts to tumble in around them, they can fall back on their charitable givings and the goodwill that they have in the community and play off of people who don't want to believe that they could be involved in something like this. So, again, what they are is nothing more than grifters, right? People who are BSing everybody, lying about everything, about who they are, about what they're about, And the Wexners continue to get away with it, even though there is so much scrutiny and there are so many unanswered questions about Les Wexner and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Yet in Columbus, you can't even bring up Les Wexner's name and try and get to the bottom of things because he has created such a shroud of secrecy over the city with all of his money and his so-called power that people don't want to speak out against him. But these days, few here seem to be eager to talk about him. The reason? Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, pedophile, and registered sex offender facing new charges that he abused and exploited teenage girls. For almost 2 decades, Epstein served as a personal advisor to Wexner, whose wealth and connections in turn enabled Epstein to court the rich and the powerful. Wexner distanced himself following Epstein's arrest on the federal charges last month, but the question still nags. What was Les Wexner thinking? And again, even the people writing these articles, they only dipped their toes so far into the water, right? We know what Wexner's motivation was. We know what he was thinking, okay? If you follow the clues and you follow all of the evidence, it all leads back to people like Wexner and the mega group being involved up to their chins in this, okay? So let's not act like Wexner was taken advantage of or Wexner was some sort of victim in this. Wexner was there arm in arm with Jeffrey Epstein, providing the seed money to get Epstein started, in my opinion. All right? So if it wasn't for Wexner, Epstein would have never had the ability to do what he did, and Wexner needs to answer for that. On Wednesday, the 81-year-old himself fanned the flames, accusing Epstein of misappropriating millions of dollars from him and his family. The betrayal was discovered in 2007, Wexner said, a year after Epstein was arrested in Florida on charges similar to those leveled in New York. Again, more cover, and people let him get away with it. Nobody questioned it. The FBI didn't come forward and say, well, what's going on here? There's something funny. Obviously, this guy took $47 million and it takes you 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is to report it. But no, that's only for the average folk, like me or you. If one of us shows up talking about, oh yeah, $47 million been stolen from me, they're going to want to know your blood type. They're going to want to know your firstborn. The FBI is going to want to know every single thing about you. But when it comes to guys like Les Wexner, nah, you do whatever you want there, Les. $47 million? He stole that from you? All right, let's write up a report. The two-tier justice system is just an absolute farce. It needs to be smashed and scattered to the four winds, the four corners of the earth, because I'll tell you what, there is no way in hell that an average person would not already be caught up in this in a criminal investigation. Just guys like Les Wexner, guys with all the money in the world, guys with all of the power and all the pull in the world, they're the only ones that avoid stuff like this. Not Keith Raniere, not Weinstein, not Bill Cosby. This was, frankly, a tremendous shock, even though it clearly pales in comparison to the unthinkable allegations against him. Wexner said of the ordeal in a letter he sent to the Wexner Foundation, his first public remarks about the alleged swindle. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. We're going to need a lot more proof of that again. This is why a RICO charge and RICO charges are so important. Slap all of these clowns with RICO charges and then let the forensic accountants sort it all out. I would bring in a team of 20, 30, 40, 50 of the best forensic accountants from around the country, and I would have them hammer it out, and I would give them access to every last transaction on record that Jeffrey Epstein, Wexner, and the rest of them made. All right, and also I'd be leveraging witnesses with those draconian RICO charges. In Columbus, the Epstein affair is big news, but the city seems to have adopted a code of silence when it comes to the disgraced financier, pedophile, ties to Wexner. A philanthropist whose invisible hand has guided so much here. And again, there we go. It's all about what he has done for the city. It's all about, we have to have loyalty to him because he's done such great charity work here in our city. No. What about the survivors who were abused by Epstein with Wexner involved? Wexner is a huge, huge, huge player here, and it needs to be blown up in the media just how much of a role Wexner had in this whole entire thing. If Wexner never gave Epstein this seed money, if Wexner was never involved with Epstein from the jump, Epstein probably never reaches the heights that he reached, and he never becomes such a prolific human trafficker and sex abuser. So where's the outcry? Where are the calls for Les Wexner to testify? At the High Bank Distillery, just south of the sprawling Ohio State University campus, the conversation abruptly stops when questions are asked about Wexner and Epstein. People wave them away and focus on their beers. Doors are slammed shut in New Albany, the affluent suburb of golf links and cul-de-sacs that Wexner carved out of a cornfield northeast of the city, and also where Maria Farmer was assaulted by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, right there on Mr. Wexner's property. They didn't help Maria Farmer out. They knew what the deal was. Nobody came to her aid while she was held against her will on his property. So where's Mr. Wexner and Abigail Wexner? Where are they with the answering questions? Why haven't they been called upon to answer hard questions? Paul Burkhart, an accountant who was involved in Wexner's development of New Albany, answered his door this week briefly. "I don't want to talk," he said, retreating back inside. Again, everyone's so scared of Wexner. They're so scared of the power and the way he can manipulate people into doing what he wants them to do, as far as the people that work in law enforcement or in the prosecutor's office. They fear him. They fear losing his money. They fear losing his support, when in reality it should be the other way around. He should fear them. Many people won't even say that much. Few want to be identified for fear of being associated with the biggest scandal to touch Columbus in years, or of crossing Wexner, the richest person in Ohio, worth $6.6 billion, who is co-founder of the Columbus Partnership, a civic group comprised of more than 70 area chief executive officers. You see how deep the rot runs, folks? And you see why it's so important to keep exposing this shit? This clown is at the heart of Columbus. I shouldn't even say at the heart. He is the very beating heart of Columbus. And all of these people rally around him to keep the story quiet, to keep things on the hush, to make sure that their cash cow doesn't lose the ability to be milked anymore. How sad is that? How sad is it that these people are more worried about the financial impact than they are about the survivors getting the justice that they so deserve? As one local businessman said of Wexner, he owns this town. The L Brand CEO hasn't been accused of wrongdoing. Epstein, who is being held in a New York City jail, has pleaded not guilty. Close associates of Wexner describe him as a down-to-earth, a son of Dayton with the twin obsessions of fashion and philanthropy. He started what was first called The Limited in 1963, and its first store was in a Columbus suburb. Oh, so yeah, let's hear about his story from rags to riches again, about how great of a businessman Les Wexner is. I don't care, okay? I do not care about his business practices. All right? I want him arrested. I want him questioned, and that's the end of it. He is part of this, okay? In my opinion, there is zero doubt that Les Wexner was not only part of this, but he had a leadership role. For someone whose empire includes Victoria's Secret, his imprint on the Ohio Capitol is subtle. His name isn't plastered all over the place. Unless you're talking about the university, of course, then his name is plastered everywhere. It's on campus where Wexner's generosity is evident, though. The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center was the result of a $100 million donation, the richest in the institution's history. And because of that, because of his monetary donations and because him spreading around the wealth to people, they're willing to go the extra mile and defend somebody who was enabling the country's biggest human trafficker and sex child abuser. Just let that ruminate for a minute, okay? Let that ferment. And then put it in your pipe and smoke it, because it's absolutely egregious. Wexner has over the years given at least $30 million more to the school. Members of the Buckeye football team, the pride of Columbus, with 13 wins and only 1 loss last season, work out in an athletic complex that bears the Wexner name. A few blocks away, a modernistic art center does too. Oh, isn't that cute? The Ohio State University, working out in a gym that holds the name of Leslie Wexner, the #1 financier of the biggest pedophile in the history of America. Be proud, Ohio State. Be very proud. Wexner first expressed public regret for his association with Epstein in a July 15th letter to L. Brand's employees, saying he had been unaware of the egregious, sickening behavior. I'm calling that a lie. I don't believe you at all, Mr. Wexner. I think you're lying. I think you knew exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was, and you had him like a dog on a leash. But the two men's long association continues to spur questions. L. Brands has hired a law firm to probe ties between the company and Epstein. Old friends are left shaking their heads. And of course, we know how that goes, right? Let's hire a company to investigate us. It's basically the investigators investigating themselves. It's such a joke. Come on. We need real oversight when it comes to stuff like this. An independent board to take a look at things from the outside. Not a group that you're buddies with or that your lawyer knows on the side. Come on, we know how these people work. We know that everything's about nepotism with these rich-ass people. He was the nicest, kindest, most generous, most charitable guy I'd ever met in my life, said Jim Duberstein, a real estate businessman who became friends with Wexner in college and kept in touch with him for a few decades. The Epstein saga just leaves people wondering, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. You were bamboozled. He wasn't this great guy. He always had his plan. He knew what his deal was. He knew the depths of his own soul. And for a man to be involved with Jeffrey Epstein the way Les Wexner was, and for this not to be something that the media is going absolutely bonkers about, I'll never understand. But I'll tell you this much, here on the Jeffrey Epstein podcast, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about Les Wexner because he is a big player in this. He's somebody that deserves the scrutiny, and he's somebody that's not going to escape the scrutiny here on the podcast. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you later, and I'll be back with the Daily Drop.